Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 90, 4 Things to Do When You're Experiencing Intense Energetic Shifts. The fact is, you are changing every second of your life. The universe is changing every second as time passes. Sometimes the change is very intense to where your emotions are running high and everything is just in chaos. And other times the changes are not as intense. This episode is all about how to help you thrive during the moments that are intense, when your emotions are running high and the quantum leaps and the huge shifts are happening. I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about the 4 things that you can do if you're going through energetic shifts. And we all go through them, right?
Every second we are going through changes, and I look at each change like it's a shift, but this episode's about when it's the intense shifts, when it's the most, because I look at like when we're changing, you got levels of intensity throughout all of those changes. And this episode is talking about like Mercury retrograde, full moons, how the environment impacts the way that you're feeling. And if the environment is shifting at a fast rate, you're going to feel like you're shifting at a fast rate, and it could get intense.
Yeah, and then it becomes personal too, because everything's heightened personally when you're experiencing that. But if you're ready for it and you know what to do, it makes everything a lot less crazy. It's still maybe a little bit crazy, but a little less crazy because you know what to expect.
Absolutely. It's more like if someone's throwing a 100-mile-per-hour pitch at you, if we tell you we're going to throw a 100-mile-per-hour pitch at you, you can anticipate it and you could look at it and you could do your best to catch it, even if you've never caught a baseball in your entire life.
That's actually a good example. I don't know how I would do with that.
This episode, and that's the thing, with these intense changes and these intense shifts that happen, sometimes we don't know what to do in the moment because we're caught off guard.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I know when I was little, I've spoke about this before, but I used to go crazy when it was the full moon. I don't remember personally that it was the moon, other than my mom saying, uh-oh, full moon's out, Lindsay's in rare form, because I was always moody and overly emotional. Now, as an adult, I know that when the full moon is out, I remember when I was teaching. I don't know if you remember when you were teaching in the classroom.
I do remember that.
The kids acted different when it came to a full moon, or even if there was a thunderstorm, they acted different. Do you remember that too?
Yeah, when it rains out, or when it was not snow here, but when any kind of shift in weather here in Florida, the small shifts that we have with the rain and the wind, and when it's real bright and sunny compared to when it's not, that all impacts the students, I notice.
Right.
And myself.
And the kids are extra sensitive, and when you're teaching in the classroom, you start to recognize this, like, wait a second, the patterns have shifted. Like, everything's normally normal at this time, but what's changed? And usually it's the weather or something like that. You
right,
because
as a teacher, you have like a group of 15 to 20 mirrors. Like, they're like little mirrors just looking at you, and they're showing you the different changes and the different energies that are going out into the environment right now.
Exactly, and I think that's why we're so prepared when it comes to energetic shifts, because we witnessed it with these little people and are sitting in the chairs in front of us. So we kind of had to be aware when it came to the classroom. And then doing research even after leaving the classroom, or getting into the spirituality of things and the science behind it. It's really powerful to be aware.
Right, just understanding that everything is energy, and everything's made of cells, and everything's continuously changing, and understanding quantum leaps and quantum shifts and how energy builds. And sometimes, you don't really notice the energy changing, then all of a sudden it hits like that, the mustard seed, or no, the bamboo tree. All of a sudden it grows the 90 feet in 5 weeks. Well, that could go negative or positive, and then you can feel that shift in energy. So understanding from an energetic perspective that this is the way of energy. And as you know, and we know, come to understand in the year almost 2020, that everything consists of energy. So if we study energy at the cellular level, in plants or animals or in nature anywhere, it tells us a lot about how we're going to react to.
Yes.
And how our energy changes over time as well.
That's so true. So should we get into the first one?
Let's do it. Tip. So the first tip in this is to allow. It's to allow this whole process to unfold.
Mm-hmm. And I think the process of allowing is, I guess trusting goes with allowing. I don't know if I'm skipping over one because we might have that in there.
No, that's all right.
But allowing is really just letting go and knowing that no matter what, change is going to happen. And if you don't judge it and you just step back and think, this is interesting. This makes sense. This is taking place. There is Mercury retrograde going on, or the universe is shifting. There's solar flares, whatever it may be that's happening in the environment, that you're just letting and allowing it to happen.
Yes, and when it's feeling bad, the moments that you're feeling really bad, because when it gets intense like this, it could cause negative emotions. It could cause you to feel sad or angry or some kind of negative emotion. Trying not to judge it as much as you may have in the past. Like kind of just allowing, just like Lindsay said, understanding that, oh, this is part of the process, and I'm going to trust that if I just continue just to allow this energy to flow, eventually it will move through and we'll get back to where we're balanced out again.
Exactly. And if just for the people that are listening to this thinking, wait, how can I be affected by different things in the atmosphere? If you think about the moon and how much power it has on, the tides in our oceans, imagine what it's doing to us. These small little creatures on this big earth. We're affected too. So just be aware of that you are changing during these atmospheric changes that are taking place.
Right, and that's the thing, it might be subtle. Sometimes the intensity, it's intense out, but it's a subtleness and it's like a quietness too. Compared to other times, the intensity is evident. It's like maybe you see a car crash in front of you, maybe there's a tornado in the environment, or however the change might be. Sometimes it's very blunt in your face, and other times it's not in your face. So I think it's important to understand the difference between those two along the way. I don't know where I was going with that, but you said something to spark that idea.
Well, that makes sense, because there may be a quietness that you'll feel, or you may even feel a sadness come over you and you're like, wait, nothing happened. Where did this come from? So let the emotions come up because they're bubbling up for a reason, and you may get more clarity of things that were buried within you that need to come up during that time too.
Absolutely. So number one is allow. So trusting the process, taking away that judgment from yourself and onto others too during these moments of intense energy. Learning to let go. I think that's all part of the allowing process. So allow. And then number two is enough space from people.
Oh, yeah,
so during these
important
times, make sure you remove yourself and have that alone time as much as you need during these times.
Yeah, and I think that's a big mistake, that sometimes when intense things are happening in your personal life or in the environment and things that are going on, you find yourself kind of jumping into the chaos, because that can easily happen too. But it's important, instead of going out into the world and saying, what's going on? I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. I need advice, or I need guidance in this area because I'm feeling so overwhelmed. Before you go to outside opinions and try to surround yourself with a bunch of people in the chaos, take time to be alone, because you'll probably receive more powerful information, and you can actually stop and breathe for a second to receive that.
Absolutely. And I look at that powerful information that you just mentioned as spirit coming in. Yes. And I think that when we don't allow that space, when we're constantly trying to fill up our space and time with people, events, planning parties, all of this stuff, working, whatever it is, we cut out that connection with spirit, to where when we remove ourselves and we go out in nature or go for a bike ride or whatever that is for you, being alone, we open up that space. If we're intentional about it, we open up that space that allows spirit or new information to come into existence, because it's not always, the answers aren't always on the outside. Sometimes they appear to be, but I would say most of the time the answers, like we hear a lot, they come from within. And the only way you can tap into those answers is by having that alone time, by having that space for yourself.
Yeah. And I liked how you just said the intentional piece, because that is a huge part of this. Just like you have an intention to go out and search for advice from a friend or guidance from a psychic or whatever it may be, set that intention for yourself and allow the answers to flow through you too, because you could get it in the form of thoughts. You could get it when you go outside and you see it on a sign. There's so many different ways that you can receive this information, but if you set that intention to want to be open to receive the guidance that you need, then it makes it that much easier for you to receive it, because we're constantly getting inundated with information around us and we're always getting signs. But when we're not aware of it and open to receive it, then it feels like we're alone, and we're really not. We're actually being surrounded with this all of the time.
Absolutely. And when you get that information, sometimes we could try to overanalyze it, especially if it's information from spirit. We're trying to make sense of it in our practical minds, and we're trying to overanalyze it. I would say not to do that. Look at it like this. Look at it like when you tap into that other dimension and you feel that fulfillment from spirit, allow that just to be. Allow that presence to come up and allow that presence to just be. Because if we just keep on trying to overanalyze it, eventually we suck that presence right out of us. I know that that's how it feels for me.
Yeah.
I'll go out and I'll go bike riding, or I'll read books or whatever I do to kind of get that space to allow spirit to come in. And then I'll go and, I'll feel good from that, but then it's like you get in your head again to where you're overanalyzing it, you're trying to solve all the problems. And what helps me is always remembering that there's another dimension to it. So you got this physical dimension here, and then you got this other dimension that we can't see. And our whole goal in this physical dimension is to do things to fill up that other dimension. And once we do it, then to use our thoughts and to use our actions in an efficient way. And I believe when we're acting in an efficient way with that, we're not overanalyzing. If you ever find yourself overthinking something or thinking too deeply, overanalyzing something, you're probably on the wrong path.
Yeah.
That's how I would see it.
Right. And I think that goes with when you're alone and you take time to be alone, savor that moment. I know sometimes Tony will come back from a bike ride and said, like, I knew you were talking about that. Tony will come back from a bike ride and say, oh my gosh, the most amazing thing happened. It could have been like a dolphin experience where the dolphin was communicating with him or whatever it is. And I'm like, what happened? And he's so excited to tell me, or so excited that it happened, but he's like, I don't want to tell you just yet. I just want to like savor this moment and then tell you. Because sometimes it does zap the energy out of you when you feel this exciting moment and you share it with someone and they can't feel it the same way. So it takes away the essence of that sacred moment. So sometimes it's nice to enjoy it before you bring it to other people.
Absolutely. And understand that other dimension of you is very sacred, because you can't see it. Like you can't be like, here's the coffee mug to somebody, because this coffee mug they can see for the people that's watching. It's a coffee mug in my hand for the people that's listening. But the other thing, you're trying to grasp it. It's like picking up water. And you're like, here, look at this. And then, you really just learn to savor it. Exactly. You said it very well there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go to number 3. On the third thing to do we have here is understanding that your vision during these times could be cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I know my vision's cloudy during these times.
Oh, yeah, and we call each other out on it. If we're not seeing clearly in the moment because there's an emotional charge to something, our intuition can be completely off. So if you are going through an energetic shift personally or whatever's going on in the environment, you may literally be seeing something that's not clear and you're emotionally charged and it is cloudy. So you're going to have to take a step back if you do feel that something's off. So you really do need to take a breather, and that's going back to just being alone and being out into nature too.
Right, and then also just to add to that, for those of you that have vision boards, I highly recommend them. This is a time to really go back and look at your vision board, maybe even more so. Maybe in the past you look at it for maybe 2 minutes a day. This time maybe you might want to revisit it 4 or 5 times throughout the day, or whatever is calling you to it, or whatever you could do to spark that imagination, to spark that vision, that to where you're seeing a year down the road, 5 years down the road, and you don't have to be attached to it. It's not about that. It's more about getting clear on who you are, what you are in the moment, what you feel in the moment. And then also gratitude I think is huge during these times, is thinking about the things that you're grateful for also while you're thinking about your vision, because this will ground you during these intense moments when your energy's high and everything's emotional and all of this stuff. Going back to this long-term vision and what you're grateful for, it works as a way to ground yourself. That way you're back in your body, you're back planted, you're fully centered, and you're going to act in a more powerful and effective way from that space.
Definitely. And if you find yourself getting almost like changing your mindset around something that maybe you were thinking it was one way, and then all of a sudden you're having a rough moment and you're like, everything's going horrible, or I'm feeling frustrated with this situation, don't act out in the moment. Like, take that moment to do things like that are grounding, to get clear on your vision, to get clear on what you are grateful for, because then you'll start to realize the relationships in your life, what you're grateful for, instead of thinking what's going wrong. Because I know that that's happened to me before,
right,
where we feel extra sensitive and everything is just overwhelming, and you start to think about what's happening that you don't like. So just start to focus in on the things that actually bring you that joy too.
Absolutely. So number 3 was your vision might be cloudy, and just make sure that you just, whatever you do, and you do this all year long, obviously, to have clarity. Because clarity is your power. The more clear you are about everything, about who you are, about where you're going in your life, the easier things need to be. But especially during these intense moments, make sure your vision and what you're grateful for is very clear and in the forefront of your mind, and it'll help to ground you during these moments. Number 4, on the fourth thing to do is, I'm kidding. It's okay to slow down.
Oh yeah, this one's huge. And I think this is one of those moments where you can easily think, oh my gosh, I'm being stopped in my tracks because something's slowing you up, and you think it's not meant to be for me to do this because I'm being slowed down. I'm meeting resistance because I'm forced to slow down. If you're at that point, it's probably just because you just need to take it a little bit slower. It doesn't mean that it's not meant to be. It doesn't mean that it's you're not in the right space. It's just like, wait, let's just stop and breathe a little bit and take a moment to do that.
Right, and this could manifest in you being sick. This could manifest in maybe even losing a job, or maybe your business does not do well, or maybe
you're more sleepy than normal.
And your allergies are acting up more than what you need. I look at these as all signs from the universe saying, hey, it's time to slow down. It's time to slow down. I was just actually sick for about a week or so.
More than a week. It was, you were never sick, and it was
really
like
to where I was
10
sick,
days.
10 days, and I looked at it like the universe was saying, Tony, slow down. And I felt like that's exactly what it did, because I caught the message. Like, I felt it happening in the moment, and I was still frustrated because I'm more somebody where I like to go bike riding and do all this stuff and go. And I was forced to slow down. And I will say I'm not sick anymore, and I still feel like I still have that energy of taking it slow and slowing it down. And so look at it like that. If you ever get sick or allergies, it's not because, sometimes it's not because you're eating unhealthy or you're doing something bad. Maybe it's a sign to slow down.
Yeah, you weren't catching the sign in the first place, and that's what happens. I remember that time I was really, really sick, which I don't get sick anymore either. It was just like a 3-day thing, and you were making me those drinks. Like,
oh, I remember.
Yeah, okay. These holistic drinks that it's like lemon and pepper.
You gotta
and
finally
else.
chop everything.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, that was like the worst feeling for me, not to be able to get up around. But I was forced to lay in bed. And I started to gravitate to a YouTube creator who's absolutely amazing. And I'm going to ruin her name. Jonah. Gosh, I could see it in my head, but I don't know her last name. Jonah. She does painting. She lives in Sweden. If you looked up Jonah from Sweden.
The one that sings the songs and everything and does the animal callings?
Yes, her. I just binge watched her vlogs, and she actually moved from a fast-paced city to this small little town in Sweden with hardly any people. In order to get to the main part of town to go to the post office, it takes like, I don't know how many minutes, a long time. And watching her live her life and her vlog in that simplified moment really brought me back to like what I like and what I want. And it actually made me get some crafts again and bring it back into my home. And it was almost like I needed that moment to slow down and watch and observe and think, wow, this is what I want. This is what I miss. So it was really eye-opening for me, and I wouldn't have seen that the same way if I didn't have that time in my bed. So it reminded me of that.
Right, because Lindsay's the same way too, to where she's going. What's the next thing I got to do, and we could get in that mode to where, and especially during these intense moments, full moon, Mercury retrograde, or maybe you're going through your own full moon in your body, you're going through your own intense changes in your body. It's so important because during those moments, you want, like we've been discussing on this episode, you want to move quickly and you want to just go like move all of that energy, which sometimes it calls to do that. But in other times it's taking that willpower, it's taking that self-discipline to, let me just slow down, take a deep breath and knit, or draw, or cook, or grind your own coffee beans, or go to the local farmer's market and pick out your own vegetables and fruit and make like a nice dinner, or whatever it is for you. Just picking those different things to where you could just slow everything down.
I love it. I love doing that when you could take the time to do that, because, and it's important to build it into your schedule too and not wait for energetic shifts to take place to do all these things. But this is just an added bonus to remember when you are going through that shift.
Okay, awesome. So let's go through the 4 real quick, just as a reminder. So number 1 is to allow the process to happen, because you're always changing. Everything is going to get intense at moments. Everything is going to chill out at moments. Understand it's like a beautiful song, and just allow it to play how it wants to play. Number 2, enough space from people. Make sure, especially in these intense moments, that you're removing yourself from the crowd, you're removing yourself from your busy, hectic life, and you're taking those moments to just take time by yourself because you need it. Number 3 is understanding that your vision will be cloudy at times during these intense moments because your emotions are running high, everything is getting very crazy, so it could make your vision a little cloudy. So double down on looking at your vision board, meditating, thinking about what you're grateful for, and getting very clear about who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. I think is very important always to go back to. And then number 4 is understanding that it's okay to slow down.
Those are all like really simple but complicated things to do too.
Right.
Because in the moment it could feel complicated.
They sound simple, but we want to suggest to apply these, and continue to study these different topics for yourself, because I think it's at the surface level it's simple. Actually applying it into real life, it could get a little complicated at times.
Exactly. So what we want you to do is share with us if you've ever had these energetic shifts that have taken place in your life, and also share with us if there is anything else that you've received from this podcast episode too. We're so grateful for you. I know some of you have been messaging us asking how to work with us and what we do. And the reminder is I'm a psychic medium. I do readings and teach classes, and Tony's an intuitive coach, and he does private sessions. So if you want to learn more about us, go to TonyCmitchell.com or LindsayMarino.com. So thank you guys. We appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.